You have a bike that you love. Naturally, you want to take care of it and protect it. So here are 5 things or hacks that I do to my bikes in order to protect them and stop them getting damaged. Because if they get damaged, that's going to cost you money. Before we crack on, if you find these kinds of tips and hacks useful and you haven't already, please do subscribe, as it really does help support the channel, and we can see in the analytics that most of you don't. Well, anyway, the first one is frame protection. And the thing that I use is heli tape. Heli tape is great because it's clear. So you get to see the paint under your bike and you sort of can't really tell that it's there. You can use any other kind of tape you like. You can use even black electrical insulation tape, but it's going to be quite obvious where it is and it's going to look a bit pants. Mountain bikers love this stuff because it helps protect your frame against rock strikes, so it's really worth considering if you ride a gravel bike, particularly in the down tube area, as it offers a little bit of extra protection on the carbon and also helps protect the paint. It's also useful on the chainstay against chain slaps, so I've actually got some on my Pinarello here on the drive side chainstay that just gives a little bit of extra protection should I drop my chain, or if it just go over some rough terrain or hit a pothole or something. Helps protect the frame and stops getting scuff marks on it. The other places that I attach tape is generally anywhere that I'm attaching something to the bike, whether it be lights attached onto the seat post or onto the handlebars, or bike packing bags, because bags will rub against the frame where they make contact, even on the straps, and that can rub paint off pretty easily over the course of a ride. And if you don't want to end up with annoying marks all over your frame, just put some tape on and it'll protect it. One that can catch people out is if you have a bike that has a painted seat post like this, even the saddle pack can rub against the back of the seat post and rub the paint away. So that's something to be mindful of. And you don't have to put loads on. There's loads of different tapes available. Take your pick. Something clear would be my pick. I've got some new wheels. I'm just setting up a set of Princeton 4550s. Very nice. With Pirelli P0 RS tyres on. Now, with the old Silca sealant, I used to put it in there and then set a reminder on my phone for 3 months. It didn't last as long. But the new stuff, well, it says on the bottle that it lasts 6+ months. So what I'm going to do is just set a reminder on my phone for 5 months from now, and then I'll simply check how it's going. To check how it's going is really easy. What you do is you just take the valve core out of the wheel and stick something down there to use as a dipstick. An old spoke or a spare spoke works pretty well, but any thin object will work. Pull it out with the valve in its lowest point, and if you've got liquid sealant on the end of your dipstick, then your sealant is, well, in theory, still liquid and still good and still going to work. Yeah, 5 months' time. Hey Siri, set a reminder to check sealant in 5 months' time.
Okay, I've added check sealant for the 10th of August, 2025.
Bloody hell, that's ages away. The next thing is drying your bike. Now, after you wash it, or if you've been out riding somewhere really wet and gross, it's really important to dry your bike if you want to look after it as best you can. This is because any water that's left inside nooks and crannies and recesses, especially where there's bearings, is going to create the perfect environment for rust and corrosion to occur, which is going to destroy your bearings really quickly. Now, the gold standard when it comes to drying your bike is an air compressor. That's what pro mechanics in the Tour de France use. But unless you're a complete baller, the kind of decadent baller that has thousands of Dura Ace cranks lying around in every drawer in their house, then you probably don't have an air compressor, in which case I'd recommend this. This little gizmo is essentially like a sort of small electric hairdryer without a heating element and a very thin nozzle. But they're really effective at blowing air into tight little gaps and cleaning out dust and water. They're also useful for cleaning out your keyboard on your laptop. Something else I have at home, which I feel helps with this, is having a dehumidifier in the room where I keep my bikes, which just helps sort of dry them out as well and keep that room nice and dry. But I sort of have that in my house anyway, because I live in England and it's damp. The next thing on my list is ceramic coatings. Now, this is something that's really popular in the automotive world with high-end fancy cars, and it's something that I do to all of my bikes now when I get them new. We've made a video about it in the past, but for those who haven't seen it, what it is you use an applicator to apply an incredibly microscopic thin layer of a liquid that forms a chemical bond with the lacquer on the surface coating of your paint of your bike, and in doing so changes the surface chemistry of the surface of your bike and makes it incredibly hydrophobic, which means that it actively repels water. It disrupts the surface tension of water, causing it to bead up, and you get that nice beading effect when it's wet. And in doing so, dirt and water just drops off the bike much more easily, and it makes washing your bike much more easy too. Now, when it comes to washing my bike, there's something very specific that I do, and I've spoken about this before, but I still know that everyone hasn't got the memo yet, so I'm going to keep banging on about it. And that is, first, I rinse the bike off to get rid of as much surface dirt as I can, and then I do a contact wash after I've done that. A contact wash is where you're literally making contact with the surface. However, what I don't use is nasty, harsh, wiry brushes like this, but that's what most bike washing videos on the internet seem to advocate that you use, and people go to town like it's a toothbrush all over their bike. These things, it might be all right on your cassette and your chain, but it's not designed for the frame and the paint. What it will do is it will mar it. It will cause little micro scratches in the surface paint or the lacquer, and it will just dull the finish and just make it look a bit rubbish. What I do is, when I'm ready to perform a contact wash, I get some nice sort of bike-specific shampoo or bike cleaner, put a bit on a nice microfiber mitt like this, and then this is nice and soft. It lifts dirt off the bike and is just much softer on the paint. And, well, it's going to keep your bike looking fresher for longer, and if you ever come to sell your bike, then it'll look better when you come to sell it as well. The next one is protection of your top tube from bar strikes. Now, I did a maintenance video on this a while ago, but not everyone's seen it, and I think it's a really useful idea. So the number one way in which carbon frames get cracked is through bar strikes. What is a bar strike? It's when the bars rotate, usually in a crash, quite viciously, and then this part of the handlebar strikes the top tube of the bike, and then this causes a crack in the top tube. Now, the hack that I do to my bikes to help prevent this is by simply getting a small piece of gel padding and applying it underneath the corner of the handlebar where it makes contact with the top tube on your bike. Now, the kind of gel padding that I use is made by Seller Italia because they actually make it to apply padding to your handlebars underneath. It's designed to go underneath the tape, but it's designed to give you cushioning on your hands. What I do is cut a smaller section off and place it here to give cushioning to my bars on the top tube. This is something that's not going to completely 100% protect your top tube, but if it's able to reduce some of the impact and cushion it slightly and prevent some bar strikes from cracking the top tube, I think it's worth doing, especially seeing as it, well, costs relatively nothing to do. It's very cheap, and it doesn't really add much weight. You're talking about 10 grams of additional weight to your bike, which is nothing. Oh, and a bonus one, while I'm here, I've just noticed and remembered something. Something else I do on my out front mount is I typically put a little bit of blue tack just in where the computer goes, and that's because I find that out front mounts sort of wear slightly loose over time, and they only need to develop a tiny bit of play in them, and then if you're on a bumpy road, which, let's face it, most roads are pretty bumpy in the UK at least, you get some vibration through your head unit, which just creates an annoying buzz sound, which I don't like. So to mute that, I simply put a bit of blue tack down on the mounting plate, and then it just fits and that's secure and doesn't move. I've seen some pro cyclists on some pro bikes that I've filmed over the years. Well, they do something which looks a bit neater than blue tack. They get like some sort of special tape that they put inside there, but it achieves the same thing. Now, I said 5, but I'm going to give you some bonus bobbins because I love you. Now, most of you know that I wax chains. Now, regardless of the performance benefit, wax chains are great because they help your chains wear at a slower rate and therefore last longer and save you money. But the crucial thing you should do is check your chain wear and replace your chain before it becomes too worn, so that it doesn't wear out your cassette and your chain rings and end up costing you loads of money. But the key mistake that I find that people seem to make is that they check their wear with a chain checker tool, but they do it when the chain has been waxed or when the chain is dirty, and this can give you a false reading. So the important piece of top tip info I can give you is that ideally check your chain wear when your chain has been cleaned and is essentially empty and is not being sort of padded out by either dirt or wax inside it. A simple chain checker tool like this doesn't cost much money, but really good investment, and it can save you a fortune. There you go. Right, that's all I've got time for this time, but I hope you found this stuff useful. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends if you've got any, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you, bye.